You know, rowing is one of those things that shows up in movies and TV shows whenever you're trying to display somebody as like an elite in some way. And I just figured, you know what, it's high time that I actually take a look at some of these rowing clips to judge whether or not they're doing it correctly. I think we've seen it in places like House of Cards, Jack Ryan. Those are two of the ones I'm going to be looking at today. So let's just jump in and take a look at whether or not rowing in TV and the movies is actually real rowing. So you know, it just gets demonstrated in different ways. Sometimes it's terrible. I've seen many very poor examples of rowing. Sometimes it's just in the background. You're like, hey, rowing. But this time I'm going to try and take a look at 3 examples where rowing has showed up in pretty prominently in footage of either movies or TV shows. And let's just judge them. Just judge across the table whether or not they get it right. And I think you're going to recognize most of these, so let's dive right in. If this is your first time here, welcome. I'm Shane Farmer. This is Dark Horse, where you build the life that you want to live, and we just happen to use rowing usually to get you there, and usually we're lifting people up. But today, we're going to see what happens when we take a look at real rowing on camera. All right, first up is The Social Network. Everybody talks about this one as rowing. Let's just take an actual look at whether or not the Winklevoss twins are actually doing it correctly in this movie. So, here we go. Okay, Henley Royal Regatta is where this is supposedly taking place. Now, I do have it on authority. The footage that you're seeing here is this is actual footage of the Henley Royal Regatta. So what you're seeing, that's pretty accurate. I'm gonna just stop it here for a moment. So what you're seeing is accurate. This is actually what the course looks like. You see those really cool, it's like duels, just all day long. There's a whole lot of tradition that goes behind Henley. Now, I've never actually been to the race, but if you are a rower, everybody talks about it. It is one of the biggest races in the world when it comes to rowing, and it's duels. So it's very cool because you can just sit there and just watch race after race after race go down the side of the course. And again, this is actual Henley footage, but I believe that the actual rowing footage itself was picked up separately. So that's on a separate course when you're seeing the real rowing footage. So let's just let this play a little bit. Okay, so just a quick stop here. And this is actually kind of interesting. Number one, I believe this team is Harvard here. But the boat that you're looking at, that is most likely an Empauker. That yellow is just signifying that this is an Empauker shell, which is a highly coveted shell in the rowing world. So that's probably accurate there, especially for a high-level team like that. A lot of high-level teams are using Empaukers as their shells. The other piece, if I go forward just a little bit, you'll see that it says Polaroid on the side. It also said USA there. So that Polaroid, a lot of these teams do get their sponsorships that comes with races or teams. So it's very normal that you would see sponsorships on the side of boats. That is accurate when it comes to rowing. You also see rowers love their goofy headwear, whether it's bandanas, wrapped around their forehead, or weird hats. That's normal. You can see a couple of these guys have bandanas on. That's very normal to see in rowing. Just a little thing that I'm first looking at. Number one, you're catching backsplash on the oar blades. So you see that splash of water coming off the oar blade. That's normal. That's to be expected. The timing on the blades entering the water. The 3 blades that I can see right now are all entering the water at the same time. And now when I hit play, they'll actually move through the stroke. So the one thing I can't tell right now, because this is slowed down, is it's hard for me to see whether or not they are actually at speed when it comes to the stroke. That's hard to tell. So unfortunately, I'm not able to tell on this if they're at race pace, which would help dictate whether or not what we're seeing there. Also, interestingly, if you remembered, I just caught this. If you remember the scene before, right? They were going down the course. You had those white buoys running down the outside, and then there are people lining the outside of those buoys all the way along. Where are they in this scene? They're not there. There are no white buoys behind this guy right now. There are no boats over there. It's clearly filmed somewhere else. So this is definitely some of that extra footage. Little catch there. I didn't even notice that before. Also, interesting note. Many of you don't know this, but Concept 2, their other big business is oars. They make oars, and so not just rowing, bike, or skier, but they make oar blades as well, and that's a big part of their business. And if you see on this guy's oar, it actually says Concept 2 down there, and you're gonna notice that Concept 2 green on the handle as well. So they're using Concept 2 oars. That's normal. They're in an Empauker shell. Now, again, they're clearly not on the Henley course here, so that's kind of a fun catch. But let's just take a look at the actual mechanics as they move. Oh, the guy in front also visor. Back to the weird headwear. Okay, let's take a look at the mechanics here. From everything I'm seeing, yeah, they're catching the oar blades. They're moving through with the legs. Now, I am not judging this again from a high level perspective. I just want to see, are we getting generally good rowing mechanics? Is this real rowing? Is this faked rowing? What are you actually catching in this video? This looks like real rowing to me. I'm going to give this like the stamp of yes, that is real rowing. I do have to call out one thing here. Those sunglasses, totally wrong.
Favorite color, money green. Paper.
Everybody in the rowing world knows if you're rowing, you're wearing Oakleys because that's free speed. But aside from that, let's take a look at the mechanics. Good, keeping a long arm there. They're actually pushing through their leg. The order of operations on the body is not, what I believe we're seeing is real rowing. We're gonna switch over here to the other team in a second. So yeah, you're also seeing Concept 2 blades, different handles now. That's interesting to see as well. So Concept 2 makes different, well, all oar manufacturers generally make different handles. So this is it was one large wooden handle, but the previous handle you saw was kind of 2 sections for you to put your hands on. That's just a personal preference thing. Let's see a stroke go through here. Good feathering of the blades, squaring up. The timing on the squaring of their blades, that looks pretty decent right now. So things that I'm analyzing are like the rate at which all the blades square up together, because that's an indicator of a good, fast-moving team. At a race like Henley, you would expect to be seeing good teams like this, especially if they're going up against Harvard, right? You would expect to see good mechanics here. The other thing we can watch when I hit play here next is going to be how those blades enter the water, meaning do they all enter at the same time or are they off on timing? That looks pretty good. All blades enter the water. You get a little bit of backsplash there. These guys are clearly working. There's a big no-no though. You saw that head turn. Now, maybe at elite level rowing, it's a little bit more acceptable because you have good mechanics and you're less worried about that. But generally, keep your head in your boat. Don't be looking around at the teams around you, especially if you're in an 8, because that means that you have a coxswain that's going to do that for you. Although it is tempting at times to peek over, especially if you're in the lead like these guys are right now, to look over. That's a little bit motivating to see the other boat. That's the downside to being behind in a rowing race, is that the team that's in front, they're behind you. So you're not seeing them, you're actually seeing nothing, which is even more demoralizing. Demoralizing when you're rowing. Yes, I believe that was one of the Winklevoss twins right there. So now what we're seeing, this is back to the supposed course. You see those buoys on the side again? There are people posted up on the side. I would imagine that this is back to the original footage. That is a real piece of it as well. Okay, where they are in the race, I gotta call this out right now. Look how tight we are. We're right on his head, on his face, and at no point there's not even a bead of sweat on him. There's not a drop of water. There's not a bead of sweat. There is no way that you are this far into a race at Henley and you are not sweating or splashed with water. Now, what seat is he? 2, 3, 4, 5. I think he's 6th seat. So we're looking at the 6th seat. He's sitting far forward. That means that there's somebody in front and behind him here. He's rotating out the right. Yeah, he's 6th seat. So we're looking at 6th seat. He's got to be sweating. You're sweating this far into a race. You can't sit on an erg for 5 minutes without sweating. So I got to call him out on that. There's no way that's right. Looking over his shoulder. Nope, not good. No sweat, just perfectly feathered hair. Perfectly feathered hair. There's a coxswain. That's very normal. The coxswain should be looking around. He's got that little mic on his head. He's calling all the commands to the teams. So now this is an 8. Okay, so there are the different boat classes that are in rowing. You can go in a single, pairs, doubles, quads, 4s, and 8s. So basically from 1 person up to 8 people, and technically 9 if you add in a coxswain. So that's the most that you would really have in a standard racing shell of some kind. So this is 8s. This is like the big boys racing here. In some of the others, we're gonna see singles racing, but this is an 8, so just calling that out. They're nearing the finish line here. Coxswain's pushing them along the 2. There we go. And there's the finish line. Harvard just took the L. So sorry. So sorry. So I'm going to say, yes, real rowing. Is this clearly filmed? 100%. Nobody's sweating the way that they should be in this. All right. Let's check out the next one. Up next, we are going to go after, this one is also called out very frequently. This is a TV show. So what we're looking at now is the water rower Kevin Spacey in House of Cards. You see it several times throughout the series, and this is how a lot of people found rowing as well. Like, hey, that's Kevin Spacey's rowing right now. He's using a water rower, some pretty epic scenes in this show that come from this. So let's just take a look at his mechanics here. All right, number one, if you watch this channel, you're looking at Kevin Spacey right now, what do you notice? Poor posture. Also, those knees are broken before the handle ever travels over the knees. So Kevin Spacey, you know, I was actually shoulder to shoulder with Kevin Spacey once, so badly wanted to ask if he wanted help with his rowing. Didn't say anything, should have, definitely should have. So let's just watch here. So what we're seeing right now, although, you know, he is the president, we still need to work on that hip swing. So that hip swing being a very common problem when it comes to the rowing machine. A lot of people think that keeping that posture upright means that you can't swing the body back and forth on the machine. Kevin Spacey's got that same problem right now. We could get him sitting a little bit taller. We could get him moving through the hips. Maybe we need to lengthen his hamstrings a little bit. I don't know. Kevin Spacey. I'm not here to tell you whether or not you should or shouldn't, but call me, we'll work on some mobility. As he moves through that recovery, that handle glides up and over the knees. There we go, now he's into position. I can almost guarantee you that the heels are lifted here, something we know that we don't want, and we want those hips actually behind the shoulders. We're also seeing a bit of a 1-to-1 on the machine here. You know, you're noticing that it's a 1-to-1 ratio. The same time it takes him to get forward, it takes him to move back. Now, you can still get a great workout. You're still gonna sweat hard when you do this, but when it comes to the actual mechanics, we gotta keep those legs down. We gotta make sure the arms get away, then the hips close, so that we can actually be getting the most out of the movement. Right now, he's missing a lot of the legs. There's a lot of arm happening here. If I just keep backing it up and we just watch these strokes over again, there's just a lot of arm happening. You know, he's shrugging up, he's tensing the shoulders, lots of pulling with the arms, all very common problems. And but you know what? This is a real depiction of somebody in real life, and I'm sure there are plenty of people who, and you may even count yourself in one of these. If this is your starting point, great. There's still plenty of work that you get to do. You can focus on those mechanics, and the more you focus on the mechanics, the better and more comfortable you're going to get with the machine. So, you know, Mr. President, here in this shot, he could have been getting a better workout. I'm going to say it right there. Kevin Spacey, president, could have been getting a better workout. What's it? Frank Underwood. Frank Underwood could have been just crushing it. Could have been way more fit. Wonder what his 2K would have been. I don't know. At this pace, maybe it's a 9-minute 2K right now. Maybe we could get him down to an 8. Could we get him past 8 minutes? Maybe. On the water rower though, I don't know. You know, water rowers do move a little bit faster than Concept 2, so we put him on a Concept 2. I don't know what that looks like. I'm just gonna say, all right, this is real life, real person on a machine. Could we work on his mechanics? Absolutely, but that is Kevin Spacey in House of Cards. Up next is John Krasinski and Jack Ryan. He is such a heartthrob. Yeah, I think if I could grow a beard like that, you know, maybe I could be that hunky. I just don't. God, he's a good-looking man. I don't know that he has an actual rowing background. I did hear that he actually practiced going into this, that his trainer put him on the rower, as in the rowing machine, but I don't know that he really trained for rowing. I think he probably just did some like thousands and said that they had rowing practice. So this is actually an interview with him, but they do show it. All right, so here we go. All right, we're to the single. The lonely boat, where nothing can go wrong unless it's your fault. That's what happens in the single scull. Now, the difference between what you saw in the first one and this one, in the first clip where we were in 8s, that's called sweep rowing. Now, sweep rowing, each athlete has one big oar, and you're only responsible for taking that oar out to one side. And there are 8 of you, or 4 of you. You could also be 2, 4, or 8 are the numbers that you get with sweep rowing. You oppose each other because you have to have equal force on each side of the shell so that you don't, you know, turn in circles and do that whole thing. But in this instance, this is called sculling. And so you get an oar in each hand, and you are responsible for making that boat go straight, which means not only do you have to have good mechanics, you have to have good balance because it's just you, and the boats are very narrow, and as you can see, much longer than you as a person. So you are as wide as the shell, and it's a V-shaped hull, very tippy. If you don't put oars in these things, they would basically roll into the water themselves. They're just not They're not meant to float. The physics is not in your favor in a single. But the other piece is you have to put on even pressure on your hands, because if you don't, you naturally are going to turn, and there's no coxswain here to save you. Sweeping and sculling, two very different types of rowing. People are going to make arguments for both. I think both are great. So we started with an 8, we got sweep rowing, then we got rowing machine rowing, and now we got a single sculling. So let's take, and that's SCULLING. I believe that what we're seeing right now is a stunt double. So this is not Jack Ryan. This is a stunt double rowing from overhead. They're probably filming this from on a bridge, I'm guessing. I'm not exactly sure where they're supposed to be, but he is wearing a shirt that says Boston College here. I don't know my bridges in rowing like some rowing elitists do. I bet. I'm going to challenge you. Rowing elitists out there, take a look at this bridge. Where is this filmed? Maybe you actually know it because you studied where this was filmed. But if you didn't, I want to know if you know this bridge just from memory. So he's wearing a Boston College rowing shirt, which says that, you know, if you were in collegiate rowing, you were probably sweep rowing, not sculling. And here he is sculling. Doesn't mean you can't do both. I scull now, you know, but I digress. Let's get back to his rowing here. Okay, so number 1, left over right. That is a golden rule when it comes to sculling, is the handles actually go left over right. They don't go side by side because the oars actually overlap. So they can't come in at the same time. Otherwise, you'd smash oar handles together. So you do go handles left over right. What we're seeing here, neutral wrist, pretty good. But he's very upright for being at that release position. Let's see how that plays out. Okay, well, there was a layback there. Let me play that through in real time here. Okay, so there's a stunt double. There he is up close. You can tell you can see the shaking of the hands. That is a very common feeling. If you are new into a single, it is terrifying because it's not just pushing like you're pushing on a machine. One wrong move and the boat starts to do this. So as you're pushing, your hands are out here. You're like, actually, that's pretty far. You're not going to be that far out, but you're going to be here. As you're putting on pressure, if you're not putting on even pressure, which it's very easy not to do because if you don't get the oar blades in at the same time, maybe you get one in, the other one kind of like skips a little bit, and you start to just push on one side, what's going to happen is, you can find videos of this, a very slow train wreck where you just like start to tip and then you kind of panic and you like try to grab onto the oars, but you just end up slowly rolling into the water and you get wet and then you got to flip the boat and you got to get back in. It's a whole thing. It's like thankfully, I am lucky. I've never actually taken a swim when I've been rowing. I don't know how. I've been so close many, many times in a single by myself. And especially at like 4 o'clock in the morning, it's dark out and I am sweating bullets within 2 minutes. Not because I'm working hard. I'm sweating bullets because I'm terrified of flipping in the dark by myself with nobody else around. But I digress. Let's get back to his mechanics here. So you can see that shakiness. He didn't lay back much there, and now we see him laying back in this one. He's tossing quite a bit of water. You can see that right hand is actually dropping quite a bit too. Again, not surprising if you're new to rowing, which let's take a look. This is John Krasinski. So I gotta give him kudos for truly getting in a single and actually figuring it out. That's not easy. They could have panned out and they could have put a stunt double with an equally good-looking haircut here, and they would have been okay, but he took the initiative. He's in that single. Good for him. This is what real rowing in a single looks like, and maybe after a couple sessions, this is where you would be too. All right, so see those hands drop. You see how far that blade is off the water here. That's called skying. So the blade, because he's a little bit unsure, but those hands drop at the catch position. When the hands go down, it's an opposite reaction, right? Your hands go down, the oar blade has to go up. So that creates some instability in and of itself. And you'll also notice, remember we talked about backsplash earlier, you can see that on his starboard oar, it's in the water now. Or he's flicking it squared up and it's splashing water. So he's caught water on his starboard oar, his port oar, or his right side, not in the water yet. That's also going to create some instability. And then he kind of slaps at the water there. Nothing that I am saying is horribly wrong. We're watching Learn to Row in action. This is somebody who's getting into a single, You can feel his nerves. I can feel it. I know him. I am feeling, I know his feeling. I don't know him. John Krasinski, I feel like we could be friends. I feel like we could really be friends here, but I know what you're feeling in this moment. It is sketchy. You're feeling very sketched out in this. You know, he's taking short strokes. You can see that boat kind of tilting side to side. The oar blade comes out of the water quickly. He's dragging the blades a little bit, trying to like sneak them back into the water. There's just a lot happening in like learn to row world going on here, but again, super cool. He's doing it. So he is really rowing, stamp of, yeah, John Krasinski, real rowing in this show. And it's fun too, because this is reality, and I think that's the cool part of it. We're watching real rowing in reality. I think they're trying to imply that he's like a great rower, but he's a learned rower. That's great too. It's just different, I think, than they're portraying. And let's see if there's anything else. That intensity there, good. But what I didn't like about that, let's check this out. As he comes up, first move is gonna be head. Watch this. Head leans back. That is not the right move. You never imagine that you're like holding a tennis ball under the chin. You would want to be able to keep that tennis ball there at all times. You never want to be lifting the head, because that means that shoulder is leading. That's just taking you out of the mechanics there, which that's a kiss of death when it comes to actually being on the water. On a rowing machine, not that big of a deal. In the water, yeah, it's gonna get sketchy. That face of intensity though, that's real. Doesn't matter how fast or slow you're going in a single, that phase of intensity happens because of the focus. And that's that. I mean, what more is there to say? That was decent rowing from a guy who's not a rower. I think that's great. Good, John Krasinski, good on you. Jack Ryan, good on you. So there you have it. That is rowing in film and TV. There are plenty more examples out there, and maybe if you guys like this, let me know in the comments below. Did you have fun with this? And what other movies use rowing? Because maybe we could put those into the next one. But all in all, it's fun to see if rowing shows up in places, because it's, you know, sometimes it's fake. It's so fake. Other times it's just way in the background. It's always fun to find out, like, should it be there? Did they use stunt doubles? Did they do it themselves? Sometimes I've seen, there are some movies, and I can't remember what they are off the top of my head, but there are some movies where it's just blatantly not real rowing. I don't know how they're doing it, but it's bad rowing. If you can think of what they are, drop it in the comments below. Also, I'd be totally remiss if I didn't bring up a documentary that just came out about rowing, and it's actually about the first African-American high school rowing team in the United States. In Chicago, some rival gang members even all came together with rowing as the thing that brought them together. And Arshay Cooper wrote a memoir about it, and I believe the documentary is based off of the memoir. And it's an incredible story. I would highly suggest you go check it out. Go check out the website. I'll drop it in the description below. An excellent resource, especially if you're wondering about ways to find resources in the Black community and rowing, and now of all times, that being a really important message for us. And the timing on this is just perfect. We're talking about film and TV with rowing in it, and a documentary is dropping at the same time. So go check out A Most Beautiful Thing. And if you like this and you want to see more of it, make sure that you hit that subscribe button and the bell next to it so you get alerted when I come out with new videos. And again, I just want to encourage you, go check out A Most Beautiful Thing, the documentary, or buy the memoir. Both fantastic resources.